Now, in the course of hydrology, we will hear this word hydrological system modeling quite often. So we'll try to understand how to define these two words, which are very important. First one is hydrological system, and then what is a hydrological system model. Now, in the context of hydrology, we define system or a hydrological system as a structure or volume that has some finite boundary, and these boundaries, they will take some input in form of water, energy, air, do some manifestation on it. So some water may go as groundwater, some will stay intercepted, some would be retained by crops, and so on. And after this manifestation has happened, we will have some output, which would be, let us say, discharge. And this entire assembly of these components, that is structure, boundary, inflows, and manifestation, is called as the water hydrological system. Now, let us also, another important term that we will encounter frequently is the watershed. So to understand watershed, let us try to see that with help of an example. Let us consider a funnel, and this funnel will take some inputs as IT, and there would be some outputs as QT. In a real world, watersheds are similar structure. That means that whatever is falling onto this area, that will stay within this particular funnel, and everything else would go to the second funnel. So these watersheds are going to have the watershed lines, which we call as watershed divides. That means everything falling within that divide belongs to that watershed, and everything falling outside that divide belongs to another watershed. Now, if we have to put a boundary, we should put a boundary in a way that all the influxes and outfluxes are accounted for. So we will choose boundary strictly in a way that we are not missing any path line from where we could have some possible fluxes of water, air, and energy that we just mentioned. So now we clearly see that, and since this funnel would be a three-dimensional object, this shape that is enclosing it, it has to be a three-dimensional cylinder. And when we are dealing with cylinder, we are dealing with a specific shape which has a boundary, and there would be certain manifestation occurring here. And in case of a simple funnel, this manifestation would be whatever is coming in, that is going out. Now you get a little bit more adventurous and say that I will plant some small plants, or I will design some retaining structure in this particular funnel where I should be able to store the water. That would mean that now your QT would be proportional to IT, and this would be related by some constant CIT. And one of the purpose of hydrological model is to determine what form this C should take, so that we are able to tell how our output is going to look like. So essentially, it becomes a predictive model if we are talking about a stochastic setting, where idea is given certain sets of inputs, what is going to be an output. Now, unfortunately, in real hydrology, our examples are not going to be as simple as this funnel. But whenever the concept of watershed comes, always remember that within a funnel, we will have a certain structure through which water will flow, certain manifestations will occur, and at the end, we are interested to tell what is going to be the output. And we will study this output dedicatedly in the form of hydrographs. There would be a dedicated units to study that how these inputs manifest and how basin or watershed characteristics control these hydrographs, which in turn would determine how much flooding we are going to receive and how much of the extreme precipitation will manifest into flood levels once we determine these hydrographs. Now, one thing is clear, that we are going to abstract a very complex system into some simpler representations, and we call this entire construct of simplification of a complex real world system into simple representations as hydrological modeling. So now let us look into the aspects of hydrological modeling. So hydrological modeling would essentially deal with determining what is the relation between input and output. And we can have two kinds of hydrological models. As models try to simulate the reality, we can have some physical models, small scale hydrological model. So the model that you have in IIT Gandhinagar Hydraulics Lab, it's a physical model which represents a small watershed on which we simulate an artificial rain and the discharge happens, and these are the experiments that you will do in your laboratories. Similarly, we can have the abstract mathematical models that are based either on certain mathematical principles such as conservation of energy, conservation of mass, conservation of momentum, or they are purely data driven. And we will be primarily dealing with the abstract models in the context of discussions that we are going to have, given there are certain benefits because they are scalable, they are easy to comprehend and solve using pen and paper, as well as you can model a small watershed of few square kilometers, as well as large Amazonia river basin which is in few 100,000 kilometers. Now we can also have a different level of complexity associated with these models. For example, again consider IIT Gandhinagar as our area of study. You can say that within IIT Gandhinagar, we would have precipitation of different intensities happening in different parts. For example, if we have student hostels here, our academic block here, our faculty housing here, there is high likelihood that these three areas may receive at same time different intensities of precipitation. So I1T, I2T and IT3, such that the intensities of precipitation are not equal in many cases. But you do not want to model these system as at much finer resolution. But you do not want to model the system at such a granularity. So you would say that I want to lump this entire campus and we'll use an average precipitation. And this average precipitation is represented by, let us say, IT. That is the average amount of precipitation that has taken place over IIT Gandhinagar campus is represented by IT. Also, you are interested to look into how much discharge would come out of the IIT Gandhinagar if we consider this IIT Gandhinagar is a funnel in a way that everything will go out to one specific point, and you are interested to model this QT. Now, what you would need here is that you are averaging QT, you are averaging I, and you would say that I will represent this IIT Gandhinagar as an urban form. That means there is a lot of concrete, and I have calculated that on an average 70% of rainfall will run as runoff. So what you have done, you have lumped all the physical properties of such a big area into one representative number, and you say that now I will apply the conservation of mass, momentum, energy, and so on to estimate this relationship between QT and IT. So you are basically looking at the lumped model. These are called as lumped hydrological model, where you represent a, an area of non-zero magnitude as a dot or as a point and concentrate all the properties there. Similarly, you can define a distributed model. You would say that now instead of modeling IIT Gandhinagar as one single dot or one single unit, let me divide IIT GN campus into large number of small grids. And these grids basically would all of these grids have different properties. That would mean that if there is a green patch here where students play foosball or any other game, that would have a green patch. On the other hand, our hostels, they would be primarily concrete and hence would be represented as black patch. On the other hand, if you talk about the faculty housing area, that would be mix of both green patch as well as concrete patches, and so is the case with our academic block. Now you have basically decentralized the properties, and you will say that for concrete I will use a different coefficient, and we will talk about these parameters later on. But right now we are trying to identify that at what scales we can do the modeling. And you will say that here, since we have a cover of grass as well as concrete, we will use a different measure. So with each grid point, you will associate a different parameter, and then you will also account for the precipitation discretely. That is, on a given day, it's high. There is a possibility that academic area receives a different precipitation than hostel area, and that would be accounted separately. Now you clearly see that this looks like a more of a realistic picture, because you are saying that yes, hostel area is inherently different from our playgrounds, and hence the hydrological characteristics should be different. So you have distributed the properties or distributed the system all over the campus, and hence we call this particular setup as the distributed hydrological model. So these are two extremes of complexity. On one end, we have the lumped system. On another hand, we have the distributed system. And many of the real world hydrological models that we deal with, they are of intermediate complexity, and we call them as semi-distributed models. Now, once this distribution is clear, that it could be lumped or it could be distributed, we have to also account for whether we are talking about steady or non-steady flows. So we can have lumped steady model, lumped non-steady model, distributed steady model, and distributed unsteady model. And we will talk about these steady and non-steady hydrological model in our next video.